conference over to Mr. Tarak Patel from Christian IR. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Thank you, Janice. Good evening to all participants in this call. Before we proceed to the call, let me remind you that this discussion may contain forward-looking statements that may involve known or unknown risks, uncertainties, and other factors. It must be viewed in conjunction with the business risks that could cause future performance or achievements to differ significantly from what it is expressed or implied by such forward-looking statements. To discuss the recently concluded OFS transaction and answer questions today, we have the top management of GMM Pfaudler, represented by Mr. Tarak Patel, Managing Director, and Company Secretary, Ms. Mittal Mehta. We also have Mr. Kehl, CEO of Pfaudler International, and Mr. Alexander Pompner, the CFO, to talk about the international side of operations. We will start the call with a brief background related to the transaction and then open the floor for Q&A session. With that said, I'll now hand over the call to Tarak Patel. Over to you, Tarak.
Yeah, thank you, Divakar. Good afternoon, everybody. I think most of you have seen a few of my interviews over the last couple of days on TV. We were never planning to have this investor call today, but because of the misrepresentation of information out in the market, in the news channels and other mediums, we decided that we should clarify and be transparent to our shareholders like we've always done in the past. And we wanted to also clear the air in terms of certain rumors that have been floating in the market. So let me just start off briefly by giving you a brief about the OFS transaction. I will also touch on some other points and then maybe speak a little bit about the business outlook going forward, and then I will open it up for Q&A. So let me talk about three important points about the OFS. I think it's very important to understand who and why the promoters are selling. So the promoters that have sold, and we've sold about a 20% stake, is BBAG, which is a private equity company which has owned Pfaudler Group since 2014, for the last 6 years. So as part of the larger transaction, when we acquired the international business of the Pfaudler Group, there was definitely a monetization, a liquidity event for BBAG. As I mentioned earlier, they're a financial investor. They want to see their returns, and this was an opportunity for them to take some.
Ladies and gentlemen, requesting you all to please hold the line. We have the line for Mr. Tarak Mehta is disconnected. We are just trying to reconnect him. The speaker, Mr. Tarak Patel, please stay online. Thank you for patiently holding the line. We have the line reconnected for Mr. Tarak Patel. Over to you, sir. You may please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, everybody. My network is quite poor, so if I get logged off again, just bear with us. So I was saying that BBAG sold 18%, and we as a family also sold about 2.2%. These proceeds for the sale of the family 2.2% will be directly reinvested in the international business. The international business, as you remember clearly, was purchased for an equity value of close to $50.4 million for a company that clocks about $175 million of revenue. So all in all, we got a very good deal for the Pfaudler International business, and by ways of that, BBAG monetized some of the additional funds from here in GMM Pfaudler. So again, to reiterate, we are committed to the business. BBAG still will hold around 20%. We as a family will own about 22%, and we are committed to the business, and we are locked in for the next 3 years. So there will be no further dilution of shares. There will be no liquidity event. After the 3-year period is completed, we will take a call on terms of what needs to be done. But I want to make it clear to you all that, again, please remember, BBAG is a private equity company, and they will look to monetize their stake after the 3-year period. When and how they do it, that is something that is not decided today, and we will take that decision when the time comes. From our standpoint, I also want to make it clear to everybody that we as a family are a long-term investor in the business. We have been part of GMM Pfaudler for the last 60 years and continue to be and will be a part of this company going forward. We will also look to increase our stake. We do want to emerge as a dominant promoter after a 3-year period. We would like to increase our stake close to 30%, and that is something that we will find the right mechanism to do that at that time. I also want to here kind of bring in a few more points. Our company, if you know, was a very closely held company. Many investors at many calls always ask me about how do we bring in high quality investors, how do we increase the free float, how do we bring more stability to the price in the market. And being a privately owned, not privately owned, but the bulk 75% being held by the promoters, it was not really an opportunity for many new investors, a lot of visibility to come into this company. And that's one of the reasons that we have decided to bring in high quality investors to increase the free float to close to 50%. And, I have seen many people complaining about the price, but please understand, for shareholders, it's still a notional loss, while for me and my family, it's an actual loss. So us selling at this price is something that we were very careful about. We believe that the value is a fair value. There has to be price discovery when the stock is so closely held in a niche business, in a business that is not very visible. To bring in really high quality investors, it's really like a re-IPO. So there is definitely price discovery that happens. And I am very happy to share with you today that we have a very, very strong shareholder roster. Unfortunately, I cannot share the names with you, but you will see that on the day of the board meeting. Since these funds will be owning more than 1% of the company, all their names will be there. We have about 3 or 4 money managers, top money managers in the US. We have a very strong institutional investor base here from India, which includes the top 3 to 5 mutual funds as well. And these people will not come in unless they have done all their diligence. They've checked on the governance. They've checked on the business aspects. They have looked at every minor detail of the company, and they found it good to invest in. And that's something that we're very proud of. And going forward, there will be stability. These are long-term investors. They normally hold for 7 to 10 years. They give the management bandwidth, time and space to really work out and do and focus on the business. So from that standpoint, again, we have got in, we have increased free float, and I think that is going to change the outlook of this company going forward. As a company has a journey in its life cycle, there has to come a time when we have to open it up for new investors to come in, really give it that international appeal, that focus where people will speak about it more, will know about it more, and that will only happen when the public stake is a much larger amount. From a pricing point of view, there has been a lot of backlash, and again, like I mentioned, there is a price discovery. The price of our stock has seen significant improvement over the last few years and maybe in the last 3 to 4 months as well. Compared to the price 1 year ago, it's still...
तुम्ही ज्या व्यक्तीशी बोलत आहात त्याने तुमच्या कॉलला होल्डवर ठेवला आहे.
Sorry, I went on hold, I think. So as I was saying, that can you hear me now?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So as I was saying that when these new investors come in and the price that we have got is something that they believe that there'll be significant upside. So if you are an existing shareholder, I don't see any reason why you need to change your outlook. If you found this company valuable and attractive at 4,000 or 5,000, I don't see why it should be even more attractive at the current price. So from my standpoint and the way that we price, and you have comfort of about 1,000 crores investment that has come into the business, they all found it very attractive to invest at that price. So I see no reason why somebody should complain about it. Let me also spend a couple of minutes just talking a little bit about this SLB matter. I think that has something that has dragged our names, our company's name into a very negative limelight. Again, I don't know what I'm expected to say about this, but nobody has pointed a finger at us over the last maybe 5 years since I've been MD. and I think probably even a bit longer since my father or my grandfather have run this business. So we've always had the best interest of the business at heart. We always respect and want to be transparent to our minority shareholders, and there's no reason why any of that should change now. Just from a logical standpoint, when we have done the biggest transaction that we could do as a company, when we bought out our global parent, when we are bringing in high-quality investors, the names that you will know in a few weeks' time, it doesn't make logical sense for anybody to take a risk on shorting and making short-term benefits, which in the long term will have no reward for people like us. So that's something again that I want to just reiterate, that our conscience is clear. We are willing to help any agency that would like to check or need information from us. We as a company are very conservative when it comes to governance. We actually closed our window on September 2nd, much longer than what is actually required, and we do that every quarter as well. So just to reiterate and reassure investors that from that standpoint, there will never be a question mark. There will never be any kind of compromise from our side. Lastly, let me also spend a couple of minutes. A lot of questions around Indian company buying an international business. People have not done well. So again, I would like to make a few points here. One of the reasons that we actually invested as a family is to show our commitment and belief, because that was one question we believe would be asked quite often, that why is an Indian company going out and buying an international player when they're not being very successful. So the idea here is to take some of the risk with us as well. We believe in the business. We've known the Pfaudler Group for now 30 years. We've known the BBAG team, Thomas and Alex, who are on this call, for the last 5 years. We have a very clear idea, vision, and what we want to do for this company. Not only we want to be the world leader in glass-lined and anti-corrosion space, but we want to be more than that. We want to be the biggest name when it comes to chemical and pharmaceutical processing. We have BBAG, Thomas and his team as well, all aligned in terms of businesses. We know exactly what we need to do over the next few years. We know what acquisitions, what new products, what new technologies, and there are a lot of synergies that we can extract from joining hands. One of the big synergies that I would like to just maybe highlight quickly is India has a much lower labor cost. So that entire arbitrage will come into India. We have already sold equipment into Italy, but we are now looking at moving a lot of the production of the metal fabrication here to India, like we have done with our Swiss subsidiary. We also believe that the Pfaudler brand name is strong enough so that sourcing can come from India, but the final finishing, testing, glass lining can be done locally as well. There are a lot of new products that Pfaudler has acquired over the last few years. We are now in the process of localizing that and bringing that into the Indian market as well. So from that standpoint, we believe that there are a lot of growth opportunities for us here in India as well. Lastly, there is definitely cross-selling opportunities. And, if you have gone through our presentation, which is on our website, you will see what these opportunities are, and I'll, be happy to answer any questions. Just to give you some guidance in terms of numbers, so for GMM Pfaudler, this entire financial year is going to be very strong. We started the year with a very strong performance in Q1. We aim to improve that. Our order backlog again has reached the highest it's ever been. We have about 1,000 glass and equipment backlog. We have a Hyderabad facility that will come online in the next 5 to 7 days. So we have additional output going from there. We have 2 new gas furnaces which have already reached our factory and should be started in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we can finally switch off our electric furnaces and all our production will come out of the gas furnaces now. So India is looking very strong. The order book for the entire year has been completed, and we are now looking at booking orders for next year. Both the chemical and pharmaceutical sectors will continue to grow, and we will be happy to ride on the back of those 2 industry segments. Pfaudler International also has done quite well. They also have a very strong backlog, and over the next few quarters, you will see a lot of improvements flowing into the GMM Pfaudler P&L. Just to clarify, every single rupee of the international business will flow into and consolidate into GMM Pfaudler. GMM Pfaudler currently is about a 600 crore company. We will go to a 2,000 crore company over overnight on a full year basis. So our guidance is 2,000 crores at a 13% EBITDA margin for this year, and then eventually going to 2,800 crores with a 16% EBITDA margin by 2024. This is still a conservative estimate. We believe that there are definitely synergies, and when we add those synergies, we can increase another 100 to 150 basis points to our EBITDA margin. So all in all, obviously, in spite of the last few days, we are still very optimistic on the business. This is probably the last interaction that I will have with media or with investors till our Q2 numbers are out. My job now is to make sure that we perform and let the numbers do the talking. And at the end of the day, whatever's happened has happened. There's nothing that I can change or control. So my now focus is to be back on the business and to make sure that we perform as per plan. With that, let me open this up for Q&A, and I'll be happy to take any questions that you may have. And if I need to bring in my colleagues from Germany as well, they will be happy to jump in as well. So thank you very much, and open for Q&A. Over to you, Diwakar.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question-answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on their touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handset while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. The first question is from the line of Namit Arora from InGrowth Capital. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Mr. Patel, thanks for the detailed thoughts. Could you talk us through the OFS mechanism, and did it require you to specify the floor price? And also, how did you what's the professional advice you received from your advisors in terms of the thought process of the OFS specific price that you specified? And my second question was in terms of your global acquisition. Did you at that point also consider if the entire acquisition could be done through the listed company, and what were your considerations to come up with a hybrid structure with the acquisition partly done through the listed company, partly by the promoter family? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Amit. Very good question. So yes, in terms of the OFS, normally this is how OFS are structured. We followed the entire process as per SEBI and all the listing agreements as well. So the process of price discovery, everything was done in the right timeline, in the right manner that is supposed to be done. It's a very standard process. Most companies do it this way as well. And we have a certain amount of time frame by which we have to inform the markets, and that's exactly what has been done. Every rule, every regulation has been followed to the T. Regarding not having the entire listed company purchase the international business, as I mentioned earlier, buying 26% from our family standpoint made sense because it gives or sends a very positive signal to the market. We believe in the business. We believe that we can turn around the business, and that's the reason why we invested along with it. However, we also didn't want to over-leverage GMM Pfaudler's balance sheet. Currently, the GMM Pfaudler investment is only about $27.4 million, out of which we have $10 million of internal accruals. So the debt on GMM's book for this international piece is going to be only 17.4. So again, obviously, we do believe that after the 3-year period, we will find the right mechanism to move or align the entire 100% into the GMM Pfaudler. That's something that we are aware of, and that is something that we will do. Eventually, GMM Pfaudler will own 100% of the international business.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to the participants, please limit your question to 1 per participant. You may rejoin the question queue if you have a follow-up. The next question is from the line of Deepak, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, thanks. Mr. Tarak, I would like to bring to your notice that the price band was quite wide, 3,500 to 4,200. And as retail investors who were already invested and wanted to add to our holdings in GMM, we were not sure because I think being a smaller company, the visibility in the media was not much regarding the subscription, how much it has got subscribed and at what rate and such things. So we ended up putting in our bids at the maximum 4,200. not knowing and not having the option of a cutoff price and all those things. So could you please share something for the retail investors who have probably not got the best price, and only later after the OFS was closed we came to know that the bigger institutions and funds, they have probably got it closer to 3,500, whereas retail people like me, we have invested to the maximum allowed at the highest possible band of 4,200. Thank you.
Right, Deepak. So I think, there was a mechanism by which you could have gone into the NSE website where it showed the bids, it showed the kind of pricing band, and that data was available. Unfortunately, I guess you did not have access to that. Again, even though you have got it at a slightly higher price, I still believe that if you're a long-term investor, I don't see a problem with this at all. Once the consolidation starts happening, once this performance starts improving, and GMM, as you know, still remains very strong. So nothing changes at GMM level. I think it will be I can't tell you specifically how much time, but I don't think you will have to wait very long to see some kind of upside on that as well.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Manish Gupta from Solidarity Advisors. Please go ahead.
Mr. Patel, a question on the international acquisition. If you look at Indian companies, traditionally they have not been very successful when they've ventured overseas. Perhaps it's because of cultural differences or whatever. So right now you're acquiring a company which has got plants in multiple countries: China, Italy, Germany. Do you believe that given the opportunity that is in front of you in India, which itself is a very attractive opportunity, and you have such a dominant position in the marketplace, that the company might be getting a bit too adventurous?
Yeah, so again, very good question. Just to, kind of give you some background, we've been now associated with Pfaudler since 1988, so we know the business really well, we know the people really well. We know how this company functions, the cultural issues of this company. It's all, this company has also changed hands multiple times, has been neglected since 2014, since DBAG came in. So there are definitely a lot of improvements that have happened in the last 3 to 4 years. 3 plants have been modernized. DBAG has spent close to $23 million to get 3 new facilities. The old plant in Germany was shut down. The plant in China was relocated. The plant in Italy was shut down and a new one was purchased. All these have not started flowing into the P&L. We expect that to happen in the coming quarter, and that was one of the big kind of, we had to convince DBAG to sell this company to us at this right time before all the improvements start flowing through. Because once this would happen, then obviously this company would become much, much more expensive. And being an investor and retaining their stake in the business, they understood that, and that's why we were able to do this transaction at this time and also at the valuation that we got. But having said that, I think there's a lot of cultural related work that needs to be done as well. The employees are all very good, but there has been some amount of neglection that has happened in the past. We need to motivate these people. We need to get the momentum going. And I believe that Thomas and I share a very common vision. It is not that the Indian team is going to go in and start micromanaging the international operations. Thomas and Alexander are very capable. Most of the initiatives that they have started, they will still run those initiatives. And also an important point to note, as part of a small co-invest, many of the employees of the Pfaudler Group have also invested in the Pfaudler International business. So that's something that will also give them a lot of commitment and the alignment. And maybe right now, Thomas, if you don't mind, can you maybe just say a few words about how we plan to integrate and how we believe these companies can synergize in a much better manner?
Yes, thank you, Tarak. My name is Thomas Kehl, CEO of the Pfaudler Group since 5 years. And let me say the thing about our strategy. When we took over the company in 2014, 2015, we immediately recognized that we have to implement the strategy, including some restructuring of sites that needed a significant cost improvement and process flow improvement. We also looked at the culture of the people and the culture of our sales staff, and we enabled ourselves to bring in new people, outside people, sales directorship globally, a service directorship globally, to drive the business on a global aspect. And we created a global sales channel that is being the platform for new products and new portfolio products that we are looking at, adjacent products, in order to grow the business on a global basis. And the company, the Pfaudler Group and GMM Pfaudler, we were working very closely since the very first beginning when we met in 2015, strategically aligned. We have shared the same vision, and we have now further plans now when we are fully integrated to take advantage of the resources like low labor costs and so on, and getting a better competitive position even then. And Tarak said the restructuring of the sites will take place, and the benefits will go to the P&L the next couple of quarters already, and the full benefits will come now to GMM Pfaudler rather than the Pfaudler Group on its own. And we always had in mind to, at one day, have those two companies being integrated, and this now was a great opportunity to get it done and going forward into the future, and it's a very successful, bright future.
Thank you. The next question is from Vipin from APC. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much for this call. So my question is, can you please break down the new shareholding pattern after this transaction? It will be good if you give us the breakdown, like how much is holding by Patel family, how much is from DBAG after this dilution, and maybe the other shareholders. Thank you.
Right. So, thank you very much. The DBAG is going to continue holding 32.68%. Their previous holding was 50.44%. So they have sold about 17.76% to bring it down to 32.68%. We as a family were holding 24.56%. We sold 2.32%, and now we come down to 22.24%. Promoter holding has come down from 75% to 54.92%, and public float has gone up from 25% to 45.08%.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Srinivas Iyer from Rockford Consulting. Please go ahead.
Tarak bhai, I'm excited by your vision of making our company.
Mr. Iyer, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but your audio is not audible, sir. Could you please?
Tarak bhai, I am excited by your vision of making our company global leader for chemical process equipment company. God bless you. I have two small questions. In our glass line equipment, our market share in India will be 75 to 80%, isn't it? Then when can we expect a global result to be included in our results?
Right. So our glass line market share today is about 55%. But like I mentioned to you, we have the highest backlog that we've ever had. We want to reduce our backlog. And what is going to help us in the very, very short term is our new Hyderabad facility, which we will get in the next 2 to 3 days. So we have already started manufacturing metal bodies. We've already shipped them from Gujarat. So immediately, as soon as we get the keys to that factory, we'll start the glass lining and start catering to the Hyderabad market. So we believe that we definitely will have an opportunity to increase our market share in the south. Plus, with the new furnaces coming in Gujarat as well, we have additional capacity. So I'm confident that we can bring down our backlog very quickly over the next quarter or so, and then go and try and improve and increase market share. Like you know, now GMM Pfaudler does not have a equal in terms of quality competitor in India. We used to have a French company who sold us their factory in Hyderabad and has signed a 3-year non-compete. So in terms of technology, in terms of brand, we are the only international player. All the other competitors are now basically in local players. So they don't have the technology kind of background that we have. Like I mentioned, and I'm not sure if I got your question right, the closing of the transaction is expected to happen sometime in November. From November onwards, the entire revenue and entire profitability of Pfaudler will flow into the GMM Pfaudler P&L. So from that day onwards, we will then be consolidated entirely as one group.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of VDS Prasad, retail investor. Please go ahead.
My question to Mr. Patel, sir. basically, what is your plans to pull back the confidence from retail investors community? Because investors like me, we bought the price at a very high level, and what are your plans to pull back that confidence from retail investors community? Like, are you going to issue any bonus shares or interim dividend? What exactly is company plan going forward? Thank you.
Right. So, I think firstly, I don't see a reason why anybody should lose confidence in us because everything is done as per the book. But I completely understand where people are coming from. But again, my only advice to everybody is we need to also see the bigger picture. There has been certain news floating around, which obviously is not anything to do with us. And once somebody picks it up, it just starts circulating more and more and brings up a lot of negativity. But definitely, we always would like to reward our long-standing shareholders. If you have been invested and you have bought at a higher price, my only advice is to hang in there. The company remains very strong. We will completely work our hearts out to make sure that you do not lose further valuation. We will only try and improve it. We've done that over the last 5 years. While we were taking the share price when I took over as the MD, it was 250 rupees, and until last month it was 6,900. And people were very happy with me till then. So I would just say that please, you can count on us. We will put in the blood, sweat and tears. And at the right time, we will definitely reward shareholders either through the bonus or some kind of mechanism which is going to be EPS accretive for all shareholders.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Kunal Krishna, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Tarak. So there is always room for improvement when it comes to transparency and corporate governance. Now, having said that, going forward, what steps are you going to take in order to ensure that the interest of retail investors is protected amidst any new developments, and considering that there may be individuals or entities privy to the company's future plans, which they may use to their advantage at the cost of retail investors' interest? Thank you.
Yes, sir. I think good question again. I think we will definitely need to strengthen our, we already have a very strong corporate governance policy in place, but there is no harm of, like you said, always improving. I think with the quality of investors who will come in now, who will subscribe in the OFS, I'm sure they will also demand a much higher level of corporate governance. We will learn a lot of new things, and we will hopefully implement best practices better than what we have currently. And we will obviously always be transparent. And that's one thing that I have done. And if, the people who've been following GMM since 2015, since I took over in June, I've held a conference call every quarter without fail. Personally, I've been in all these calls, and I have never shied away from asking and being transparent and having a very open conversation with anybody. That is something that will remain the same. Obviously, that is something that we don't want to change, and we want to continue as being as practical, transparent, and pragmatic as we can. However, at the same time, like you said, we will try and bring in some more corporate governance measures that strengthens our corporate governance going forward.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Vidya Kehl, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Tarak Patel. Congratulations on starting a new journey into the global market. My question is, in the time from now up to the integration of the two entities, the global part of the Pfaudler Incorporated and GMM Pfaudler, what benefits do I receive as a shareholder of GMM Pfaudler? Point number one. Point number two is, what mechanism do you envisage to integrate the two business entities?
Right. So I think until the time when the businesses are consolidated, which is sometime in November, you obviously have our Q2 performance to be recorded. We have a board meeting planned on October 21st. Like I mentioned to you, in spite of COVID, we were managed to get the factory up and running very, very quickly. There are not many businesses that have been able to get through this crisis fast enough, quick enough. One, for us, we have been very lucky because our order book was very strong, and we expect the performance of Q2, Q3, and Q4 to also be very, very strong. In terms of integration globally, the idea is that there is no real integration, because since we've been working together for the last 5 years with DBAG and Thomas and Alexander, and for the last 30 years with Pfaudler, it's not that we are going into a new factory that we've never seen before or meeting new people that we've never met before. So from an integration standpoint, I don't see a problem at all. Integration has already started. We are already working together in many ways. One example is that Pfaudler has bought a company called Interseal, which is a mechanical seal company. That entire product range is going to be manufactured now locally in India. The localization has already started. Currently, we buy these seals from Eagle Bergman and from Flowserve. Now we will be producing our own branded mechanical seals and applying them to every reactor that we sell. So again, a huge kind of benefit both in terms of revenue and profitability. These are also very, very high when it comes to after-sales market business. So that's a great opportunity. So things have already started happening. We're sharing technology on glass. We're sharing technology on acid recovery. They are selling our heavy engineering products. We are selling their products. They are allowing us to go into Southeast Asian markets. Taiwan is an order that we recently got from, some orders from Malaysia. So I think the integration is going on, and before you know it, things will start flowing through into GMM.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Tarak Mehta from MetLife Insurance. Please go ahead.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Hi, good evening, Deepak.
Yeah. So my question is about the disclosure of this OFS, sir. So at the time of acquisition, also I think there would have been discussion with the private equity DBG. So even at that time, if you would have disclosed, I think it would have made more sense and transparency. So.
Right, Deepak, good point. There was definitely a conversation, but nothing was decided at that point. When would we do it? How would we do it? At what price would we do it? Who would do it? What investors would come in? So it would have been too speculative in nature to disclose anything at that standpoint. And as you know, disclosing something that is speculative will cause even more problems than the disclosing. So only once we were certain, and as per the guidelines issued by SEBI, is when we disclosed. But, as you said, that yes, conversations, and we knew actually from day one that when DBAG came in, that they are a financial investors and they will liquidate at some point. We always knew that. But the exact timelines is not, that we knew for certain, and hence we could not disclose.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arun Kumar Ohri, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Mr. Mehta, I am an investor since 2006, 14 years when the face value was 10 rupees. I never had a concern on the company. However, the entire transaction in the last 3 months, the way it has gone, when the price was running near 7,000, there was no alert, and I find very difficult. Like 14 years, I never had any issue. This is a share with which I was sleeping. That's the way I would say. But it is shocking that when the price was around 7,000, when it was going out of range, there was no alert given to the market. It is not to say that I am a seller in the share, because my cost is 70 rupees. So it was hardly any kind of sense for me to worry about this. But it does shake a confidence. What is the kind of steps you are intending to take to rebuild the confidence of the person who took the share of the company as a rock solid, without any problem, without any issue, like a clockwork? Dividend used to come every quarter, good balance sheet, transparent balance sheet, never had it. But the entire thing, the way whole exercise has been done, is a bit different.
Right. I completely agree with you. I mean, on market pricing and market demand, I don't like to comment on that, but I hope that by bringing in additional free float, bringing in strong investors, long-term investors, there'll be less opportunity for people to play with the price. I think that is something that as the company grows in size, as we grow in scale, as the more number of investors and visibility comes in, it will be beneficial for all shareholders going forward. On the other aspects of dividends, in the other aspects of corporate governance, balance sheet, accounting policies, nothing has changed, nothing will change. So you can be rest assured. I know many people have seen what has happened the last few months and obviously enjoyed it while the price went high. And then when it came down because of the OFS, were very distraught and unhappy. But again, like you have been a shareholder for the last maybe 14, 15 years, I would, still urge you to remain a shareholder. We will not let you down. And there will be no opportunity where you can point a finger at us for any kind of wrongdoings or misdeeds, which is something that the market pricing is not in our control. And from our standpoint, our only focus is to continue making the business successful and trying to grow both revenues and profitability.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Atul Modi, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Tarak. I have got two questions. I am a small investor since last 1 year. One thing is that why was this OFS declaration of OFS not done prior? You declared on 21st, and then OFS was open for non-retail investor for 22nd and only for retail investor only for 23rd. I actually couldn't apply for OFS at such an attractive price. Had it been a little more transparency, I could have done that. That was the question number one. And question number two is, why was the opportunity of rights entitlement not given to existing shareholders rather than straight away going to the public? These are my two questions. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you very much. In terms of the OFS notice, everything was done as per the SEBI laws, what is required to be done. So that is something that was basically dictated not by us, but by what SEBI allows. So that was your answer to question one. The OFS, I think, is a mechanism by which we are not at all increasing the shareholder base, the shareholder capital. The number of shares still remain the same. You will be earning, the earnings per share is going to increase significantly over time. And that is one thing that we wanted to maintain. We did not want to increase the number of shares in the market. And that's the reason why we decided to go with an OFS.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Ashil Shah, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Hello. Hi. I had one question regarding the competition that you all currently have. From what I understand, you guys have a backlog of, let's say, 7-8 months. And you all don't have competition from international companies. The rest of the companies here are local, and you have a technology advantage. What is stopping you all from increasing the prices and essentially getting a much larger share of the profits?
So again, we have to be very careful. We have to find the right balance between price and demand. Obviously, these customers have been part of our growth journey and have been very, very, kind of mutually beneficial relationship between us. They depend on us, and hence, obviously, after a point, pricing is something that we also have to be a little bit careful about. But having said that, over the last 4 to 5 years, we have increased prices regularly. Being the market leader, we have been able to do that, and the rest of our competitors have also followed. And a lot of the improvement in profitability as well has come because prices have been increased. Going forward, what I do see and what we see in India now is the mindset of the Indian customer has changed significantly. When I came back from the US in 2000, it was a very price-conscious market. It was only about price. We had to match prices. But today, people are willing to give you a premium for good quality, for faster delivery, especially people who are building world-class facilities. So PI Industries, Divi's Labs, the Dr. Reddy's, and SRF and RT, They are not going to compromise anymore on quality. Their customers are all international players. They're all multinational players. They have regular audits. So the Indian customer is also changing, and you will see now over time that the need for high quality branded equipment is going to increase.
Kumar from CenturyLink, please go ahead.
Hello, Mr. Patel. So my question may sound a little repetitive, but the problem is on the OFS was announced on the evening of 21st September, and OFS opened from 22nd September. Maybe this is as per SEBI rules, and SEBI may allow this, but this came as a surprise to the individual investors like me. So what made this kind of sudden surprise to be given? Is this because of planning was made suddenly, or is this how things work? And second question is, on 21st September, there was on 21st September evening, the announcement was made, but on 21st September morning, there was a steep fall in the share price. So is this because the information was already leaked?
Yeah, so, again, I can't really comment on this, but I know one of the reasons why they don't have a big gap between announcement and actual OFS is probably because there could be a lot of pressure on the share price, right? So that's why they keep it very, very close together. I mean, I can't comment on why and who and what the share price has done over the last few weeks. I don't comment on it when it increases, nor can I comment on it when it decreases. Again, I just want to reiterate to everybody that share price is obviously something that everybody looks at, but I think the fundamentals of the business, the share price will obviously, improve over time as the business keeps improving. And again, if you have a long-term view, I don't see any reason why this is still not a good opportunity for you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Samir, individual investor. Please go ahead. Samir, you may please go ahead with your question. Yes.
Am I audible to you?
Yes, you are, Samir. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Being the old shareholder of your company, why all these details about how much the DBAG is selling or how much the Patel family is selling, why all these details could not have been published in your OFS letter itself, so as to avoid any doubt and everywhere?
Right. So, Samir, I think most of the information is already there. It's already on the stock exchanges. It's also on our website. All the discussions, the amounts, the who's selling, why this is sold, I think most of the information has already been shared. Unfortunately, it did not get picked up, and only few small portions of it got picked up. But the information has been shared in a very clear and transparent manner. The only thing that we did not do, and in hindsight we could have done, is made a more of a general statement about this transaction. But since it's not through the company, it's through the promoters, the company cannot really make a statement. But maybe as promoters, we could have made a broad level statement. But I don't know what kind of local standard we have in terms of this and how would we have to make this statement to the stock exchanges. So again, I mean, normally we followed exactly as per our legal advice and our investment banker advice, the standard process followed for OFSs.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Saurabh Jain from SSJ Finance. Please go ahead.
Mr. Patel, good evening. My question is based on the premise and my understanding that GMM Pfaudler will acquire about 54% in Pfaudler Inc. Patel family will acquire about 26% in Pfaudler International. And what I understand from you is that eventually GMM Pfaudler will own the entire 100% or maybe the 80% in Pfaudler International. So the question is, based on this premise, I mean, why is this considered a better alignment of interest of the promoters and GMM Pfaudler versus maybe GMM Pfaudler having acquired the entire 80% at this stage itself? Can you comment on that?
Right. Yes. So good point. Again, so this 100% is something that will happen after a 3-year period. It won't be 80, it will be 100%. That's already been decided. The reason, again, like I mentioned, is to show commitment and belief in the business. Most Indian investors would have asked me saying that, why are you buying into a business that's growing at 7-8%? where the profitability is so much lower. India is doing great. You're making 19-20% EBITDA margins. You're growing at 20% CAGR over the last 5 years. So why are you really taking this step? And the idea here is to really show to the investors and to the general public that we as a family are putting in our own money to show that we believe that we can turn this business around. We believe that there are a lot of synergies. We believe that there are a lot of improvements that we can make. Hence, we decided to do that. We also believe that by doing this, we are not over-leveraging the GMM Pfaudler balance sheet. It makes it much more comfortable for GMM Pfaudler. Anyway, because they own 54%, the entire revenue and profitability will get consolidated. And at the end of the 3-year period, like I mentioned to you, we will find a mechanism by which GMM Pfaudler will own 100% of the international business.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bayan Shah, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Tarak. I want to give an honest feedback that, a lot of retail investors who bought the GMM shares recently, right, they feel dejected by seeing the OFS which is coming at very discounted price. And some of them are now even feeling the trap. So this is one honest feedback that I would like to give you from the, retail investors. Now my question is on the debt that we have taken to fulfill this acquisition. So what is the timeline that GMM is looking to repay this debt?
Right. So on your first point, your point is well taken. I understand, and that's definitely a thought that went through my mind earlier, but there was no other way around it. If the price was obviously lower and we had given a higher order, one would have been happy, but in this case, it was the other way around. Hopefully, the share price will return to normal levels in the foreseeable future, and the retail investors will again be quite happy in terms of the performance. Now, in terms of the debt levels, we have about $17.4 million of debt that we will be taking on GMM Pfaudler balance sheet, about 12 million at GMM level and 5 million at our Swiss subsidiary level. So that is quite a comfortable level. Pfaudler currently has a net debt of about $23-24 million. However, that net debt is going to be changed to a vendor note. So DBAG is also going to show commitment by giving us a vendor note from their side without any kind of covenants or the collateral at the same interest rate that the banks would give it to us. So that is going to give us a lot more flexibility, and we believe that we can easily pay back the GMM debt in about 2 years or so, 2 to 3 years, and similarly for the Pfaudler International business as well.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Yash Katu, Amrita Investment. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi, Mr. Tarak. I have 2 questions for you. The first question is, you said that eventually you will be increasing your stake to 30% in GMM Pfaudler. Right now you've come down to approximately 22%. So when you're going to increase it to 8% eventually by 3 to 4 years, what is the mechanism? Like, how are you going to raise the money to increase your stake to the 30%? And the second question is, again, keeping in mind that you have increased your sales revenues and profit margins on approximate 20% CAGR last 5 years, and keeping in mind that you'll be able to continue, do we see any capex improvement? I mean, increasing capex, and if so, then where do you see it coming from?
No, so let me maybe speak about the second question first. The second question is both at Pfaudler International and at GMM Pfaudler. I think the next 12 to 18 months is not going to see significant capex. Like I mentioned to you, here in India, we have now a ready-made facility in Hyderabad, plus our 2 new gas furnaces have also come in. So that should put us in a good standing for the next 12 to 18 months for sure. We have enough capacity now. Internationally, as I mentioned earlier, Pfaudler has spent $23 million in capex over the last 2 to 3 years. They have shut down a 100-year-old German plant. They have moved to a much smaller manufacturing facility with much lower number of people. In China as well, they have moved from Suzhou to a factory which is twice the capacity, and in Italy they closed down their old factory and bought a competitor out. So these investments have gone in already, so there is no significant capex going to happen in the next few years. Maintenance capex will be actually lower because these plants are all brand new now. On the first part of your question, I believe it was around, I'm sorry, I think it skipped my mind. Can we get the gentleman back and just have that question repeated, please?
Sure, sir. Just allow me a minute. So your line is unmuted, Mr. Yash Katur.
Oh, yeah. Yes. No, so I think I got it. So I think he was asking about how we are going to increase our stake, right?
Yeah, because you said you're going to, you will have to fund it, right, in the next 3 to 4 years. So how are you going to fund it? Because you said the 2.5% stake that you sold in GMM Pfaudler to buy the parent group. So again, I just want some clarity about how are you going to fund to take your investments back to 30% for GMM Pfaudler eventually, 3-4 years down the line.
Right. So one of the mechanisms, and again, it might be a bit complicated, but like you said, and like 26% in the international business is owned by the Patel family. And eventually, I said that 100% will be owned by GMM Pfaudler. So there will be a merger of sorts where we'll combine the international business with the India business. And that 20% stake will then get converted to a small stake here in GMM Pfaudler, depending on what value and what kind of improvements we can bring over time. So that would help us increase our stake maybe for 3 to 4%. And then obviously with DBAG, we have a right of first refusal. So whenever they do plan to exit, we do have some ability to buy some amount of stake. Obviously as a family, we will not look to dilute anymore. If the opportunity comes, we would look at some kind of financing options or some kind of the selling of our, let's say, properties, land properties and things that we own, and then we can reinvest that into the GMM Pfaudler business.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Taran Khanna from Ambit Capital. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, and good evening, Tarak, and the rest of the management. So, Tarak, I had one question, just following up from the previous participant. You mentioned that eventually in the next 3 to 4 years, you intend to increase the stake of Patel family from 22.5% to roughly 30% in the next 3 or 4 years. If I look at the current pricing, etc., the current valuation of the company, this would imply around 400-450 crores of outgo, assuming that the pricing were to stay where it is today. This would still imply 400-450 crores requirement to be able to buy the 7.5% incremental stake in the company. Now, if I look at the international business, even if you were able to turn it around, say, in the next 3 years from 100 crore EBITDA to say 200 crore EBITDA in the next 3 years, and if you were to conduct the transaction at the same price, same valuation at which you have acquired it from DBAG, that could still imply that for your 26% stake for 100 crores, you will be able to get around 200 crores valuation for that when you sell it back to GMM. In that context, just wanted to understand that whether these valuations would be same as the valuation at which you have acquired the business from DBAG, or there will be some changes to it. And if not, how will you fund the remaining 250 odd crores to fund the acquisition of shares at GMM Pfaudler?
Yeah, so honestly, we've not thought that far, but I would just give you a little bit of guidance in terms of what and how the valuation will be done. The valuation, there is no pre-agreed price. There is no put or call options on either of us. The idea is to do a fair value when we believe the timing is right. Being related parties, both DBAG and the Patel family cannot vote on this transaction. It will have to be done by the minority shareholders, which will include the new shareholders coming in, the FIIs and the DIIs and the HNIs. So it will be a very transparent and above board manner. The idea is to not really worry about that right now. The idea is to really focus on building value in the business. All this is something that we hope will happen, but if we can't create value, then obviously the money that the Patel family has put in is also at risk. Now, the idea is obviously to create value. We believe there's value to be created, and hence we have invested our own funds into the international business and taken some of the risk away from GMM Pfaudler as well, and taken some risk onto our heads as well.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Dr. Danish Shirani, individual investor. Please go ahead. Dr. Danish Shirani, you may please go ahead with your question. Your line is unmuted.
Hello.
Yes, doctor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Yes,
I think now we should only concentrate on the positives. I've been holding the share since 1991, and I'm probably the largest individual investor minus the management. So let's forget the negatives. Let's forget what's happened. And whatever has happened isn't really good. Hasn't left a very good taste, but then forget it. Let's see further. Let's have faith as we had till today in the management. I've seen Tarak come to this company as a joinee, and I've seen him rise to what he's risen today. And I think as an investor, as such an old investor, as such a large investor, I think I have full faith in him. And I think he will take us to where he wants to take us. That is the world number one we are. The world number one, hopefully, we will always be. So, Tarak, I hope you will maintain what you have maintained and probably look back into the deficiencies which have occurred during this whole last 2 weeks, And I think we should see you where you can take us. So, without asking any questions, I think I would only like to look forward very positively as I have all through. And I will always remain committed to this company, and I hope everyone else should also remain committed. And let's just forget the past and think about the future. Thank you. This is all. I wanted to end myself on a very positive note. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We proceed to
Thank
the
you,
next
doctor, for your...
question.
Yeah.
From the line of Anand Jain, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thanks for the opportunity, and I think whatever the doctor, the speaker ahead of me said makes a lot of sense. But there's just one question which I think, picking up from the thread of the previous two speakers, is that there is still a transaction that will happen going ahead 3-4 years down the line, and whatever has happened in this transaction has certainly left a bad taste. We, as a minority shareholder, I would really expect the management to provide us some kind of guarantees in terms of how the future transaction where, the Pfaudler gets bought over completely by GMM takes place, happens in a way which is completely clean and which is not, which is not decided at that point of time, but which gets decided way ahead, maybe even now, if you can give an assurance that, that not just an assurance, but more like, some kind of like, it's going to be driven by maybe an interest rate driven exercise or whatever exercise, but a far more transparency in terms of that would be very, very helpful in bringing back that trust on the management.
Yes, Mr. Jain, I think that's a very good point, and that point is well noted. I think that's something that we have also assured the incoming investors that when we do decide to do the next transaction, we will take you all on board. We will obviously, like I said, being a related party.
Ladies and gentlemen, requesting you all to please stay online. We are just trying to reconnect Mr. Patel back to the conference. Requesting you all to please stay online. Participants, please stay connected. We are just trying to reconnect Mr. Tarak Patel to the call. Requesting you all to please stay online. Thank you.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. You may please go ahead.
Yeah, great. Yeah, sorry, Mr. Jain. I was saying that we have also assured the new investors who are coming in that they will be taken on board like you will as well. We will keep it a very transparent and open manner. We learn from our mistakes, and I think going forward, we want to be as transparent as possible with our shareholders, minority shareholders as well. Some of the information obviously cannot be shared in, earlier because of price sensitivity and things like that. But whenever we can share information, and we will find the right mechanism, and I don't think that we will repeat the same mistake twice. So we will learn from our mistakes and definitely make this company much more transparent. I believe there's already a lot of stability coming in with the new investors coming in, and there will be robustness to the price. There will be more visibility, and these investors will also bring more investors with them. So I think over time we will see that the face of this company will change, and that's something that I personally believe is very important if you want to see this company go to the next level. So being a small 75% promoter control company, I don't think that's the right place for us. We have to become really a global multinational company, and the only way today to do that is by increasing the public vote, bringing better governance standards, bringing in more transparency and things like that. And that's something we will work hard to get done.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Priyambada, individual investor. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So good evening, Tarak sir. I have my question is two parts. One is that with this international acquisition, the profit margins, what will be the impact on the percentage profit margin? Will it go up or down? And the other one is, can we have any EPS guidance, growth guidance for the next 2-3 years post this acquisition?
So there is some guidance available in our website. If you go to the investor relations section, there's a very large presentation with all the details of the transaction. I would urge all shareholders to go through it. In terms of EBITDA margin, there will be a drop in EBITDA margin in the near term, but we expect that to already improve. Like I mentioned, the 3 new facilities are now making money. They were making losses because of the move. But in March of this year, the German facility broke even. So you will see that uplift coming in. Italy is also making money, and China was delayed because it could not start up because of COVID. Has now started up also, and they have about a 20-month backlog on their books. So all in all, these 3 new facilities plus the new product that Pfaudler has brought in, you will see improvements coming in, and that will start flowing through into the GMM Pfaudler P&L in the forthcoming quarters.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Arun Laharuka from Image Capital. Please go ahead.
So Mehta, I had a question on the business side. I am just a two-day-old investor thanks to the OFS. I've become an investor. Basically, my understanding is that GMM's growth is directly proportional to the capex plan of the pharma and allied companies in the chemical sector. And again, my understanding is that there has been a significant capacity addition that has happened in the last few quarters, and with an adequate pipeline to be delivered in the next few quarters. What is your confidence on growth over the 12 to 36 months period going forward? Because by the time everything gets streamlined, are we still confident of growth coming in, or are there any other what are the other legs to growth other than the capacity addition on the Indian side?
Right. So firstly, my last name is not Mehta, it's Patel. But since you are a new investor, I think that's okay. No problem. So I'm very bullish. So currently, we have seen a lot of growth coming from chemicals. Companies like RT, PI, SRF. A lot of that China production, the China pollution control norms, that has shifted a lot of production to India, and that has been really our growth driver for the last 3 to 4 years. Pharma historically has been our biggest segment, accounting for nearly 55%, 60%. However, we've seen that drop to about 35%, and we've seen chemicals, when I say chemical, agrochemical and specialty chemicals, take up for that shortfall. So we are still seeing that chemical is strong. We are already seeing big projects coming in from the PI, the SRS of the world. We are also seeing chemical companies now moving into pharma intermediates. So SRF, PI have already announced that they are going to get into pharma intermediates as well. Now, from a pharmaceutical standpoint, we are seeing some amount of traction. We see a resurgence in pharma as well. We are not seeing it right now in the big pharma, but we are seeing it at the second level, the guys who supply into the big pharma. So the smaller companies who should buy 1 or 2 reactors are now buying 10 or 12 reactors. So they are ramping up their production because these companies are now looking at alternatives to China. So I believe going forward, I believe very, very strongly that India market looks very strong. I would also like to just add here that the European and US markets also are seeing some traction in pharma. Those geographies and those countries are looking at building redundancies in these markets. Our Swiss subsidiary has a backlog of close to 20 million euros, which it's never ever had in its lifetime. It was about a 15 million Swiss franc company, so it has a backlog now that pretty much goes on for a year and a half. So there is action happening there. And maybe if Thomas is still around, maybe he can give you a quick view on some of these investments that are coming in on the international shores. Thomas, are you around?
Yes, I'm here. Yes, that's what we're seeing. I mean, due to the COVID crisis, the world is going to look at itself at a different way than it did in the past. And many multinational investors that went offshore for their manufacturing facilities to be local and also low-cost manufacturing, they saw that supply chain interruptions may jeopardize their businesses. And they're now urged to really build redundancy and backups, and this will create additional demand, incremental demand, as they are not shutting down their offshore facilities, but they add new facilities in their home turfs, and this will boost our demand and will create additional opportunity for us.
Great, thanks. So maybe we'll take the last 2 questions, please, and then we can close it out. And then
the next question is from Viraj from Validus Wealth. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, good evening. Just 2 small questions, mainly on the number. So in the resultant post-transaction shareholding structure at the top of the tree, what's the holding of DBAG in Pfaudler Inc. USA and of Pfaudler Inc. USA in GMM Pfaudler?
So DBAG through Pfaudler Inc. will own 32.68% after the OFS. So they will still continue to be the largest shareholder, and they are still committed to the business, and this holding will not change for the next 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. We take the next question from the line of Kalpesh Koti from Valentis Advisors. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yeah, hi Kalpesh.
Hello.
Please.
Yeah, hi. Sir, you already mentioned what will be the revenue and EBITDA after the merger or the transaction. Can you throw some light or mention what will be the debt level on console levels?
Alex, maybe you can take that, but I think it's there in the investor presentation, but maybe Alex can give you some guidance on that.
Yeah, we will be at the end of this fiscal year of GMM around 32 million on a combined level. Like that. 32, 33 million.
Sorry?
I think you said 32 million consolidated net debt.
Yes, 32
Okay.
to 33. Yes, correct. Million net debt.
Yes, 32 to 33 million.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Revenue of about 275 million.
Okay, got it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question for today. I would now like to hand the conference over to Mr. Diwakar Pingle for his closing comments.
I think Tarak will give the closing comments. In case I know there are still some people on the call. In case you have any queries and questions, my email ID is there on the presentation deck. Please put it down. Happy to engage in a conversation with you guys. Tarak, your closing comments, please.
Yeah, I think thank you everybody for your questions and your comments as well. I think your feedback is well received. I think we will have some internal kind of improvements that we will work on to make it a more transparent and more open company going forward. That's something that we will work on. But from a business standpoint, from a governance standpoint, from a management standpoint, I don't think anything has changed. If you believe in this company a month ago, I see no reason why you should not believe in the company going forward. Obviously now it's the time for performance to speak for itself, and I hope that our performance can speak for ourselves. And I look forward to interacting with you again after our Q2 numbers are published. So thank you very much and have a nice weekend.
Thank you. On behalf of GMM Pfaudler, that concludes this conference. Thank you all for joining. You may now disconnect your lines.